Timer?
Yeah, watch me. Okay, so I'll start again. And I am Linda Ruth Lloyd, Jillison, Lloyd, Hudson, Lloyd, McGowan. So I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I have more of a monologue than I have a drunk-a-log. And that'll be explained soon. So, couple of things. My tidbit. I came to see that we are all one, and I no longer feel alone. So I am really nervous, and I know you guys are my friends. And Larry was in my first meeting. Big, handsome, strong man. And I've watched him watch out for, he put so many young girls under his wing in the best way, and watches over them and keeps them safe in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he also grabbed at my brother-in-law and put him under the wings. And the story in the big book about how you vaguely recognize someone, but you don't know the man standing in front of you. That is the story of Uncle Mike turning into Calvin. And I thank Larry for that too. So here's how, there's a little joke. How do alcoholics get to heaven? They back out of hell. And so when I sit in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous and look at all these cleaned up people, I know that they are just like me, that they did not come willingly. It was not their first thought. And if we take a deep breath, you can almost still smell the sin. So I just want to, okay, so I made notes, but don't worry, I probably won't go by it. And, some speakers start with, if one person gets the message that I have to share tonight, I'll be happy. I'll be happy if anybody gets anything out of this share, because I start in the middle of a thought, and then I also don't finish some thoughts. So I will be available after the meeting if anyone needs me to fill in the gaps of where I was going or where I left. So, but first of all, I have at the very top to thank Laura. And I came into that, I call it the Spring Fling, the Greater Seattle Intergroup June and December meeting. And about 9 o'clock, I'm thinking, oh my God, how much longer are we going to be here? And we were there till I think about 9:50. And I between that 50 minutes, I started recognizing how patient everyone was with the same stupid question. By the 14th time I said the same answer, I'd be scratching my temple. Going, oh my God. And here's what I came away with. I'm the GSR for Sober Sisters, but I came away with the idea that these guys do this every month. And thank you for only letting me come twice a year. And that there are the dedicated few working for the apathetic many. If you're hearing this, please come to District Command 31 and fill the 5 open positions we have in our district. I hope everybody comes out of COVID and can't wait to get their hands on Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, so let's see. I sponsor. Oh, here we have God. I knew I'd forget him. So I do want to invite him into the room, and I want you guys to invite yours into the room, because that's the only way you hear anything that I have to say. So my God and my communion of saints are with me, and actually they help get my sorry ass into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I come from a family that, I'm pretty sure I'm a direct descendant of Noah, who was found in his tent naked and drunk. So but skipping a few generations forward, my grandma, which I always just called Grandma, married Marcus, which I never knew until I was at the cathedral, because the St. James Cathedral will bury Skid Row drunks. And it was an open casket, so I never really ever saw my grandpa. But they got married in October of 1917, and between September 1918 and March of 1940, they had 13 children. And my mother is number 7 in the split, right in the middle. And my mom had 6 children from June of 45, and she was, in 1 month, she would turn 17. And she had her last one in February of 62. So she really slowed down because she had 17 years and only got out 6. So, but I did come away with a big message that was never spoken. And this is part of my monologue, and it is part of my drunkalogue. But I got the idea in my family that I will never let a man hit me, and I won't come home pregnant. And I already addressed Grandpa. Grandpa was a wife beater and a child abuser. And I had 7 uncles, 6 of them, I don't know how Fabian got out of it, but 6 of them served in the armed forces. I came from a really good family, and believe me, there was no alcoholism there anywhere because nobody acknowledged it. And they served in the Navy, the Army Air Corps, the Army Medic, and in the Marines. And my aunts, I felt so blessed. In recovery, I've decided some of these things. See, I feel like I am a diamond in the rough, and I've been in the rock tumbler of AA for 35 years. And I'm getting a little shinier than when I started out, but I still in the rock tumbler. But and I felt blessed because of the progression of alcoholism in women is different than it was in men. And so out of that, what were 26 aunts and uncles, not counting Fabian, who had 5. So I'm just counting aunts and uncles one at a time, not how many I had all together. But the way it worked in our family is they all drank. They all drank heavily. They were, like I said, war heroes. And I had women, we were matriarchal because the men were all out drunk. And we'd have halls because if you have 56 first cousins, you have halls when you have a family party. And we put Uncle Tony, I know none of my relatives will ever hear this, Uncle Tony, who was a wet brain, and Aunt Neoma, his ex-wife, who had dementia, at the same table. And they were just cheerful and happy and didn't know they had divorced each other and had other husbands in between. So that's just like some of the stories. But I will tell you this about that grandpa. My Aunt Dorothy, when she was sick, was telling me stories, which I never got to hear from my mother because my mother died when I was 34. Aunt Dorothy was still having nightmares about their childhood, and she was well into her 80s. And so I really believe that my family really did a good job. And I believe all families do the best that they can. And my last aunt, who was my godmother, my mom's best friend, just passed away last month. And she, at her deathbed, told me we did the best that we could do. And I believe that, and I believe that of all of us, that we did the best that we could do. And so this is out of the doctor's opinion. So why am I here? I'm here because the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. That phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. I am the alcoholic type. I can never safely use alcohol in any form again, but I can be recovered. And I'm recovered because I've taken the steps and because I stay in the middle. You know, you circle these wagons and you stay in the middle no matter what happens. So now I'll start my monologue because I don't know, I missed drinking at 11 in 3rd grade. But I drank essentially because not because my uncle's a wet brain, because I like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation was so elusive that I never became an alcoholic until I arrived through that door. And I'm still mad about it. The sensation is so elusive, I could not, after a time, which was 20 years of descent, differentiate the true from the false. To me, my life seemed the only normal one. And I'm going to tell you guys that I practiced drinking rum and cokes in my first apartment when I was 18 years old. I really worked to get here. It didn't come natural. And I can say from my first drink till my last drink, I never, ever thought I had an alcohol problem. Not once. And so I'm going to move into recovery now because we all have drunkalogs. We all know how we got here. But I'll try to relate how I got here, the progression, by relating it to the steps. So we admitted we were powerless. Well, here's now the deal. I was never powerless. Never powerless. Because the last thing my mom would say when she went out of the house was, Linda's in charge. And so how in the hell are you ever going to be powerless over anything? And I wasn't sure, but I will say this. I am able, as an 18-year-old, to find a doctor performing illegal abortions in Renton when they were not allowed in the state of Washington. And truthfully, I didn't even really know, because those rules that I told about were unspoken. Nobody ever taught me anything. I didn't even really know I was sexually intimate, and I'm pregnant. And but no one's ever going to know that. That's my first secret. And I was in charge, and I took care of it, and I kept that secret for a long, long time. So my life was unmanageable, but if you don't have the ability to recognize all that unmanageability, you can't do anything about it. And the other thing is about the unmanageable. What I recognized in my family is that my brothers had a problem, and it forced me to try to have one involuntarily committed. And that brother has 41 years of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. And another part, now I heard this in Sober Sisters the other night, which is why it's such a good group, is because we were on the 6th step, so that's remove our defects of character. And someone said that they like to think of it as defaults of character. And these are the defaults that I came in with. These are the survival skills and the mechanism I use to survive, to live my life, to be in charge. So came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us. So, okay, I have a family of faith origin, Catholicism, and I have a communion of saints. I still like to go light candles in dark churches in front of every statue. And I have a vigil candle at home because we believe as long as that candle's burning, I can be at the barbecue and the prayers are still going up. So, but I'll tell you, I didn't come to and pray to be relieved of this. My mother died, and I was in her living room. And again, the last thing my mother said to me was, keep them together, Linda. Well, if you guys know anything about bicycles and wheel hubs, if you take that hub out, what the fuck the spokes are going to do? And this is what I'm charged with keeping together. And so I prayed to the Virgin Mary, oh my God, you must take care of my mother, and you must take care of us. She left me too big of a job. And that is the prayer that started me on the road to Al-Anon. Because you can still drink if you're an Al-Anon. I'm a smart alcoholic. And if you don't have a drinking problem, you don't have to quit. You just have to learn how to manage it. And I spent 4 years managing the heck out of it. And that's why I feel like I don't have a drunkalog, because I put it kind of beside, except I would read and learn, and then I would go, oh, Breakfast isn't an event as long, even if you call it brunch. And that means you can't drink at lunch either, just because there was a half an hour in between. And you can't drink at dinner. I mean, you start just drinking if you're going somewhere. Where I came, by the time from that practicing a rum and coke, there was nothing that I did that didn't have alcohol. I couldn't go to a movie without, in fact, sometimes I wouldn't get to the movie because we'd stop for supplies and we would never get to the movie theater. Or because I'm such a brilliant movie critic, I'd have to go to a restaurant and afterwards and analyze the movie over a glass of wine. But I never had a drinking problem and I was not an alcoholic. So I'm standing here today restored by the grace and power of my higher power and of the people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I guess I'll throw in something for Mary Ann, even though she's not here. My most beloved sponsor that I've had for the whole time. And so now I'm going to made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood it. I guess that day then in my mom's living room, I asked the communion of saints to take care of us. And that's the first that I didn't turn my will over. I just asked that they fix this. And over the course of that time, until I went into treatment, and I have to tell you, I went to Sundown Amaranch, and I checked in as a codependent. Because again, I don't have a problem with alcohol, but oh my God, these brothers of mine are the Jesse James gang. And this is how the Holy Spirit saved my bum. There was a girl in there that her husband had just graduated. So she's a codependent, I'm a codependent. Her name is Trixie or Dixie, and she has boobs that come in the room before she does. And you can hear her all over the treatment center. And the second day they confronted me, though I was sure I had honestly taken their intake quiz. And I got on the phone to my sister, and I said, Maureen, they are saying that I'm an alcoholic. And I can't even remember having 3 drinks. And she goes, well, there's 2 girls in our family. Aren't you the sister that called Colette from Las Vegas married? I wasn't drinking that night. In fact, this is the God of my understanding. I won a Keno jackpot was enough to buy a white dress, and that was the omen that I used to marry James Herbert Jellison III. So there you have it. That's me in a nutshell. Okay, now we're going to get into what I'm doing now. I could go on and on. I have escapades. See, because I don't have a drunk log, because I was never a drunk. I only have escapades. But one of my escapades, my girlfriend put her truck in my brother's garage full of all of her earthly belongings, and I decided I needed to get out of town. And I had a friend that owed me $15 in Springfield, Oregon. I had my friend's truck, and I just knew without asking that she wouldn't care that I drove this car to California as long as nothing happened to the car. So I took all of her stuff out of the trunk and stuck it in along my brother's, and I headed out. I did, at that time, I'll have every gasoline credit card that there's possible to have. And somewhere along that ride, there's a guy sitting under an overpass with a brown bottle. It's about 5:30, and I'm driving straight through. And so I think, yeah, I could use some company. So I pull over, and I pick this guy up. Hey, you want to ride? Yes, he wanted to ride. He smelled so bad that I just, because I'm polite, I didn't say, oh, you stink. I just rolled down the window all the way, like I like to drive with my elbow out. And so we're driving along, and all of a sudden I feel, uh-oh. And at first it didn't register at first. And then I went, wait a minute, this is that stinky guy. And so I go, knock it off. And I pull over and I say, you've got to get out of the car. And he did. That could have ended like the other story where their arms were chopped off and they had to crawl to the freeway. Those are the kinds of things that I did because I was such a smart girl. Polite, but okay. So this month, it was April. And okay, this month, 4th month, April. So I still study and take the steps. I have the sponsor, beloved Marianne, that told me, because of Alvin, you, girlfriend, go get a new big book, a highlighter, and you come to my house every week, and I'm going to not work the steps with you. You're going to take the steps. And what my sponsor keeps saying to me on these days is that it's going to be a new experience. And that's what I believe we have to keep having. Not the same old sorry ass, I'm not even a drunk. I'm a cheerleader for AA now. No, I sat for 4 years like a cinder block. What pain are they talking about? I've had periods of time where I was coasting in AA. I didn't really pick up on until I was listening to Lila that you don't do these steps once and it's one and done. No, it's a practice these principles. Do this again. And so Lila is my guru, and I'm in a study group. And in the 4th month, because we've worked our steps with the resentments, and I have to say this about resentments. My sponsor allows me 5 minutes on the pity pot. So that's why I learned to talk fast. And there's nobody on my resentment, on my 4th step inventory except for me. Because every resentment that I have is really about my character defaults. No matter how I dress it up, no matter how pretty I make it look, there's something wrong with me. And how do I know that? Because I've been in these rooms where people have lost their children, have lost their marriages, have lost their life. And they cause either if they don't stay sober, they certainly cause me to stay sober. Now that was one of those ones where I don't know how to bring it back, so I'll be out there. Okay, so anyway, but I can't abide by a resentment because I spent too long blaming everybody else, too long, and so in my 4th step this year, 2 fears. Because I really believe that alcoholism is maybe my first addiction, but it wasn't my first compulsion. Because as a little 3rd grader, I was able to comfort myself with food. And so, and I got old in AA. And so I used to say that my alcoholism was fun. I was on a slide, Vegas trips, on a slide, all this kind of stuff. But eventually I was noticing there was a mud puddle at the end of the slide. And then it was, I did not want to get to the mud puddle. Well, now I'm an old lady and I'm on the slide. And I don't know if I am on a backyard swing set or if I'm at Wild Waves. I don't know how much time I have. So none of us do. So that was how I got around that fear. But my fears were, I don't know if I will ever live to change. 35 years in the rock tumbler, and I still have things I need to change. My sweet girlfriend's over to bake a cake for Sober Sisters. My husband comes home, and she says, "Oh, Jenny, it's so nice to see you," and greets him. And I go, "I'm so pissed about the bamboo." Back in the rock tumbler I go. So anyway, so I worried that I might not really ever change. And so in the 5th month after we do that part of the steps, I came to my mantra to finish up this year, to look through my defects and stuff. And that is, in God's time, I serve my purpose. And here's my other most brilliant revelation. I'm just a little alcoholic, another bozo on the bus. And my purpose is here. Now I'm still grandiose and in charge of everything, so I think, oh frick, I gotta go to India and wash lepers. I can't just sit around and do what God wants me to do in my own neighborhood. But what I have to end with is to jump to the end, the spiritual awakening. And here's what I've come to believe and what I strive for. I have to love better. It's the only job I really have. I have relationships in my family that are kind of scratchy, like those wool shirts. And I have to stop looking for slights. And I've got some good ones, but I can't put it on tape. So I have to quit looking for slights. But how that transforms is that, yes, when I'm called to ask to do something, I don't have a list of what they're not doing for me. I only respond to what God asked me. Because a long time ago in Seaside, some guy at the podium said, don't use caller ID. Answer the damn phone when God calls. And so when I get a call, I answer it. And if I can do it, I do it for him. And I just only have one message from a really wreck of a person that had no self-knowledge. Now I have a little self-knowledge. I'm not quite the wreck, but by God, I'm going to go out loving. Thanks for letting me speak.